Neon light bleeds across the city like liquid fire, streaking through the rain-slick glass of Elias's corner office. He stands before a skyline that glitters with the illusion of arrival, yet something inside him hums like a machine that cannot power down. His phone vibrates, his watch pings, applause echoes from the boardroom beyond the glass, but none of it feels real. The sound of his own breathing cuts through the noise, fragile, uneven. For years he ran toward this view, this empire of light, this applause that promised meaning. Now, in the middle of it all, he wonders, if silence ever spoke, would he even know how to listen? Morning breaks over the city in gold and gray, painting the streets with the illusion of new beginnings. Elias rushes through the lobby, every movement mechanical, every greeting rehearsed. His assistant trails him, words spilling too quickly to matter. Elevator doors close around him, a capsule of glass ascending through noise. Each floor passes like another year gone too fast. When the doors open, applause greets him again, yet his smile feels like a mask made of light. He can't remember when victory stopped feeling like joy. The boardroom is alive again with numbers and promises. Charts rise, hands clap. Someone calls him a visionary, but his gaze drifts toward the windows, where the glass trembles with wind. He imagines stepping through it, not to fall, but to feel something real. A voice calls his name. He nods, smiles, signs another contract. Somewhere deep within, a single breath of silence waits, patient as the truth. That night, alone in his penthouse, he removes his jacket and lets it fall. The city outside flickers like static. Music hums softly from invisible speakers, but even melody feels intrusive. He pours a drink, the liquid glimmering like liquid gold, yet the taste offers no comfort. The silence after each sip grows louder, pressing against him like a question he can't answer. He realizes he hasn't heard his own heartbeat in years. Dawn again. Elias stands on his balcony as the city awakens. The hum of engines, the rhythm of footsteps, the echo of ambition. Somewhere far away, Clara begins to play, fingers gliding over keys she cannot hear. Two lives moving within the same silence, one chasing, one listening. As the first sunbeam strikes the glass, Elias closes his eyes and, for a fleeting second, the world stops. The noise fades. He feels nothing. And in that nothing, something sacred stirs. The morning begins with applause and ends with silence. Elias watches his own reflection ripple on a glass award, its sharp edges catching the light like a warning. The speech was flawless, words crafted to inspire, to prove. Yet when the crowd fades, a strange hollowness follows. In the quiet of the empty hall, he hears a faint hum, not from the lights, but from within himself, the sound of exhaustion turning into awareness. Success once filled him with purpose. Now it feels like an echo asking where all the meaning went. At lunch with investors, words flow like champagne, light, meaningless, rehearsed. Elias nods and laughs in the right places, but his eyes wander beyond the table's edge, where sunlight glints off the silverware. For a brief moment, the glimmer becomes water, rippling softly like a lake he once visited as a child. He feels the sudden urge to be still, to listen. But someone calls his name, and the spell breaks. The conversation continues, empty and perfect. That night, the city hums below him like a living thing. Elias stands at his balcony, phone glowing in his hand. Hundreds of messages, endless congratulations, reminders of who he's supposed to be. But beneath the glow, his pulse slows. He scrolls through them all, searching for something that feels human, something that doesn't demand. The silence between notifications feels sacred. He almost drops the phone, but instead turns it face down, letting darkness breathe. Clara practices again, though no one will ever hear. Her fingers tremble on the keys as she feels vibrations echo through her bones. In the silence, She imagines sound as color. Blue for sorrow, gold for hope. Across the city, Elias sits in his car outside his apartment, engine off, hands resting on the wheel. He doesn't know why he hasn't gone inside. Maybe he's waiting for the same silence that moves through her, the same invisible symphony that no longer needs applause. The mirror cracks during a morning shave, a thin fracture running through his reflection like lightning. Elias stares at it, frozen, watching his face split into pieces. The sound is faint but sharp enough to cut through his thoughts. He traces the line with one finger, realizing how fragile the image has always been. Outside, the city rises again, loud and alive. Inside, something finally begins to fall apart. Beautifully, necessarily. It happens quietly. No thunder, no collapse, just a pause. Elias stands before a crowd of hundreds, ready to deliver the keynote that would cement his name among the greats. The lights blind him. Cameras flash. Applause swells. Yet the words refuse to come. His mouth opens, but all he hears is his own heartbeat. The silence stretches long enough to become unbearable, long enough to become unbearable, long enough to reveal the truth. He has nothing left to say. The room shifts uncomfortably, whispers rising, but Elias remains still, breathing into the void he once feared most. For the first time, it feels like freedom. The next morning, headlines scream his silence. Commentators call it a breakdown, a failure, a mystery. Elias scrolls through them all, unmoved. Somewhere deep inside, a strange calm has taken root. Small, fragile, but real. His assistant knocks, her voice soft, offering to reschedule everything. He simply nods and says, "No, for once the word feels powerful." He watches as the phone rings, the screen lights up, then fades into black. It's the most peaceful sound he's ever heard. And that evening, the city blurs behind a curtain of rain. Elias walks without direction, each step echoing on wet pavement. Umbrellas bloom like black flowers around him. The advertisements that once promised purpose now flicker meaninglessly across glass towers. Somewhere nearby, a street musician plays a tune on a broken violin, notes bending, imperfect, alive. Elias stops and listens, letting the rain soak his suit. The melody trembles, fragile yet complete, like truth wearing no disguise. Later that night, he returns to his penthouse, still dripping from the storm. The glass walls no longer feel like luxury. They feel like a cage. He walks through the silent rooms, each echo louder than the last. His trophies glint under cold light, lifeless. On the kitchen counter, he finds an old photograph of himself at 20, smiling at the start of everything. He stares at it for a long time, then sets it down gently, as if laying a memory to rest. Outside, lightning flashes, illuminating the man who's finally ready to disappear. At dawn, Elias drives with no destination. The city falls away behind him, skyscrapers fading into mist. For miles, there is only road, sky, and silence. The air feels different out here, unmeasured, unnowned. He rolls down the window, the wind washing away everything he thought he needed to be. Ahead, a wooden sign points toward a monastery he's never heard of. He stops the car, breathes deeply, and smiles. Maybe failure isn't the end. Maybe it's the sound of the beginning finally whispering through the noise. The road winds higher into the mountains, until the sound of engines fades into wind and birdsong. Elias parks by a wooden gate, marked only by a carved bell and a single word: silence. He steps out, his shoes crunching on gravel, and breathes the air like it's his first breath in years. A monastery rises beyond the mist, simple stone walls veiled in ivy, its doors half open, as if waiting for him. For the first time, there is no applause, no audience, no purpose to prove, just stillness, vast, unjudging. The quiet feels alive, like the world itself has been holding its breath, waiting for him to arrive. Inside, the air smells of rain, pine, and candle wax. A monk greets him with a nod and no words, handing him a small slate with one sentence written. "You do not need to be anyone here." Elias reads it twice before following the quiet figure through a courtyard where wind chimes sing softly. Each step feels lighter, each breath deeper. For years, he lived to be seen. Now, he begins to vanish, and somehow that feels like grace. That evening, he sits cross-legged on a wooden floor as rain taps against the window. In the stillness, memories crowd his mind. Boardrooms, applause, sleepless ambition. But slowly, as the rhythm of rain deepens, each memory dissolves into quiet. For the first time, he notices the sound of his breath, the warmth of candlelight, the pulse of his own heart. He doesn't try to meditate, he just listens. And in the silence, he senses something vast and tender listening back. Morning light spills across the monastery garden. Elias follows the sound of faint piano notes drifting from an open hall. Hesitant, uneven, beautiful. Inside, a woman sits before an old, upright piano. Eyes closed, fingers moving delicately. He stands in silence, not wanting to disturb the fragile music that somehow feels like breath itself. When she stops playing, she opens her eyes and smiles softly, as though she already knows why he's here. No words pass between them, only understand. In that quiet moment, connection feels louder than any applause he's ever known. Days pass without clocks or noise. Elias tends the garden beside Clara, their conversations written on small slips of paper. She teaches him to feel the rhythm of life through stillness, the breath of wind, the pause between heartbeats. He begins to understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. One evening, they sit by a pond as dragonflies skim the water. Clara closes her eyes, resting her hands on the surface to feel the ripples. Elias watches, finally realizing that fulfillment was never something to find. It was something to remember. The days blur into stillness. Elias wakes before dawn, sitting on the monastery steps as the mist curls through the mountains. The world feels both vast and tender, as if every sound, every breath, belongs to something sacred. He begins to notice the space between thoughts, the brief pause where nothing exists, yet everything feels alive. In that silence, he feels no hunger for success, no weight of failure, only the gentle rhythm of being. He realizes the universe never asked him to achieve, only to listen. And for the first time, he listens fully. In meditation hall, he faces the noise within. The mind speaks in familiar voices, old ambitions, regrets, the ache of never being enough. Each thought rises like a wave, sharp and urgent, but Elias watches it fade. The silence beneath them remains untouched, vast as the sea. He sees himself clearly now, a man who mistook movement for meaning. Tears come, quiet and unforced, not of sorrow, but of release. In stillness, he finally meets the one person he had been running from all along, himself. Later, he walks the forest path behind the monastery, where pine needles whisper underfoot. The sunlight filters through leaves, catching dust like falling stars. He stops beside a stream, the water mirroring his reflection, steady, unbroken. In the murmuring flow, he hears something beyond sound, a rhythm older than words. The silence between the ripples feels infinite. He kneels, cupping water in his palms, watching it slip away, and smiles, knowing that what leaves always returns, changed but complete. One evening, Clara invites him to sit by the piano again. She gestures for him to place his hand on the wood as she plays. The vibrations hum through his skin, low, gentle, alive. He closes his eyes, feeling music without hearing, presence without thought. When she stops, he realizes tears have filled his eyes. She writes one sentence on a piece of paper. "This is how silence sounds. He nods, unable to reply, because words would only make it smaller. That night, Elias returns to his room and sits before a single candle. The flame flickers, dancing in rhythm with his breath. For years, his mind chased brightness. Now he sees the beauty of the space around it. The shadows, the silence, the nothing that holds everything. He understands that peace isn't a destination, but the pause between each thought, the quiet pulse that's been there all along. As the candlelight fades, the silence remains, vast, unbroken, eternal. And within it, he finally finds himself. Dawn arrives without sound. Mist clings to the earth like a secret, and the monastery bells remain still. Elias walks barefoot across the dew-soaked grass, every step grounding him deeper into the nap. He no longer measures days or thoughts. They move through him like clouds through sky. When he breathes, the world breathes with him. For the first time, he feels what it means to exist without needing to become. There is no ambition left, no fear, no longing, only awareness that he is here, and that is enough. At breakfast, no one speaks. Monks eat in silence, heads bowed, movements gentle. The sound of wooden spoons against clay bowls becomes music enough. Elias feels gratitude rise, unspoken and profound. Every bite tastes alive. Water, rice, the earth itself. He looks at Clara across the table. She smiles faintly, her eyes shimmering with warmth that says, "You've arrived." In the hush, they share something beyond language. The stillness of two hearts resting in the same quiet rhythm. Later, Elias helps mend the monastery roof. With every hammer strike, he feels the rhythm of the world. Steady, humble, pure. Sweat gathers on his brow, but even that feels sacred. When he looks down, he sees Clara tending the garden, her movements fluid, graceful as prayer. For a moment, their eyes meet. No words pass, yet everything is said. He realizes love doesn't need noise. It exists quietly, like sunlight warming stone. In the afternoon, Elias sits beside the monastery pond, watching dragonflies skim the surface. Each ripple feels like a lifetime beginning and ending in silence. He closes his eyes and senses the hum beneath everything. The pulse that connects stone, water, sky, and heart. It isn't mystical, it's ordinary, and that makes it divine. For years, he chased transcendence. Now he realizes it was never beyond him. It was here, in the soundless meeting of breath and stillness, waiting patiently for him to notice. Night falls quietly over the mountains. The monks light lanterns along the path, their glow flickering like stars caught on earth. Elias stands at the gate, the same place where he first arrived, but now everything feels different. The silence isn't absence anymore, it's presence overflowing. Clara joins him, holding a small lantern. She signs a single word in the air, peace. He nods, smiling softly. The wind moves through the trees, carrying their stillness out into the world. For the first time, he feels infinite. The morning he leaves, the sky is soft with gray clouds, like the world itself is holding its breath. Elias packs only what fits in a small canvas bag, a journal, a single robe, and a river stone from the monastery pond. As he walks down the mountain path, every step feels both farewell and beginning. The silence follows him, not as emptiness, but as a quiet companion. The city waits below, restless and glittering, but he no longer fears its noise. He carries stillness within him now, not as escape, but as home. When Elias steps into the city again, the sound hits him like a wave. Horns, voices, footsteps, ambition. Yet, it no longer overwhelms him. It simply is. He walks through the crowd, unnoticed. The same streets that once defined his worth, now fading into rhythm. Every face he passes feels alive, every movement sacred. A child laughs. and he smiles instinctively, realizing that peace was never about silence. It was about seeing the beauty in the noise. Weeks later, Elias sits in a small studio, guiding others into quiet through simple breathwork. He doesn't preach or teach, he listens. The people who come to him are tired, just as he once was. They close their eyes, unsure, afraid of stillness. Elias speaks softly. Peace isn't found by escaping life. It's found when you stop running from it. The words land gently, and for a moment, the room is utterly still. He smiles, realizing that silence no longer needs to be taught, only remembered. That evening, Clara visits him in the city. She carries no luggage, only a smile and a folded piece of paper. They sit on a park bench beneath the trees as dusk falls, the noise of life flowing gently around them. She writes a single line. "Do you hear it now?" He nods, closing his eyes. Somewhere nearby, a musician plays a soft tune. The notes drift through laughter, footsteps, the hum of traffic. He opens his eyes, meeting hers, and together they listen, not to music, but to life itself. Night settles over the city, but Elias doesn't return to the noise of the old world. He carries peace through it. Standing at a rooftop edge, he watches lights shimmer like stars fallen to earth. The wind hums softly, wrapping around him like a prayer. He closes his eyes and breathes. In, out, feeling the silence between thoughts expand, endless and alive. Below, the city moves on. Above, the sky waits. In that stillness, success no longer matters. Fulfillment has no name. Only presence remains, vast, unbroken, eternal. And within it, Elias finally understands. He was never chasing peace. It was chasing him all along.